I felt like God called me out and he was like, it's time for you to stop looking for a father and it's time for you to be a father. And I remember for me that struck my soul because I was like in this place of grief.
Welcome to Sacred and Strange.
Welcome to Sacred and Strange. My name is Jay. I'm your host, and today I am joined by my good friend, I would say brother, Josh, who you realize that we've known each other now for it'll be 14 years
Yep.
in I think two or 3 weeks, right? Because we
Yeah,
met in August.
end of August or beginning of September.
Yeah, 2011, which is nuts. I think it was actually September 11th, 2011, if I remember. I think that's when I got in.
Was it? It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Roommates to good friends.
Yeah.
Definitely wanted to probably strangle each other a few times, but Josh is one of those guys that if you want someone in your foxhole with you that you know is going to have your back through anything, he's definitely one of those guys. He's just a good man, good husband, good dad, someone that I definitely admire and very excited to have him hang out with me for a little bit today. So thanks for jumping in.
Well, thanks for having me. Appreciate all the kind words. I wasn't prepared for that.
Yeah, that's all you get, man. That's it.
Oh
No,
man.
no. It's all truth. It's all truth. So
Wow. Feelings
why don't
mutual.
hey, listen, we've seen some stuff.
We have seen some stuff. We've been through a lot together.
Yeah, man. So why don't we just start with tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're doing now, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Well, married,
Congrats.
my beautiful wife. Yeah. We just actually celebrated 13 years being together this past spring, which is pretty wild to me. It's a long time compared
Question.
to, yeah,
Question.
yeah, yeah.
Question. Does she still have the Ninja Turtle costume from that first night?
No, I'm pretty sure that is gone.
Dang.
I
Bummer.
I forgot about that piece.
How could you
Uh,
forget? In and
uh,
out. 11
well,
o'clock at night. Ninja
In and
Turtle
Out is
girl.
still. Oh, I forget about the Ninja Turtle piece, but like, I definitely remember In and Out for sure. We still have In and Out. We actually were eating In and Out the other day. So isn't it crazy that
Oregon has In
third?
and Out?
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
5 minutes from our house. So it's
Nice.
and you can still feed your family for $30, and it's like, where else can you do that?
That's
Nowhere.
amazing. Not Chick-fil-A, I'll tell you that
No,
much.
no, definitely not Chick-fil-A. That's also 5 minutes from the house. So when we want to spend a lot, we go there.
Nice.
But we were reminiscing the other night how it's crazy that a little over 13 years ago, our journey started together at In and Out, and
Yeah.
here we are eating In and Out with our boys. And it's like their favorite. So if it's ever a night where they have a choice, that's what they would want, hands
Do they do
down.
the
So
animal style? Do they do it?
no, they are very strange with their orders. So one likes ketchup only, and then the other one only wants pickles and tomatoes. And then the third
Like
one will just
like no burger?
no, the burger will
Okay.
be there, but
Okay.
like then he just wants tomatoes and pickles, and he will open up the burger and eat the pickles and tomatoes off, and then he'll eat the meat, maybe, if he feels
Interesting.
like it. He will eat tomatoes before pretty much anything else.
Wow.
It's just like his thing.
I like them.
Yeah, he loves them. So, and then the youngest will just sometimes eat or not eat, as the youngest tends to do. So, yeah, married and three boys, all very close together. Their birthdays are 10 days apart. So we
Really?
have, yeah, yeah. All
I didn't realize that.
You didn't know that?
No, I knew the first two were close. I didn't
Yeah.
realize that the baby was there too.
Yeah, he's 10 days from the oldest's birthday.
Wow.
And he's only 7 days after me. And then we also have Christmas and our anniversary and Valentine's Day and three
Yeah.
other family birthdays, all within that. What is that?
So
Like
your
6 week period.
your budget is shot for the whole year, right in the beginning of the year.
Oh, yes, it's very expensive season. We've actually decided that we have to celebrate our anniversary in the summer just to offset how wild that 6 week period is from December 21st to February 10th.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, it's wild. And we always have multiple Christmases. So
Of course.
it's a wild ride. But love my family, very thankful for them. The reason for everything in life, the reason I do
Yeah.
pretty much everything. And then I work in youth mental and behavioral health. Ages 0 to 24 is the ages that I am like able to work with in my agency. I'm a member of the leadership team, so my responsibilities vary. I'm not going to name the agency just for
Yeah, because the FBI agent that's listening right now will definitely
more like my
tick you
agency
off.
would not want, they may not necessarily level my views on stuff. So, but
That's fair.
it's been overall a good place to work. I've been there now for 5 years. I've worked in their inpatient. I did a year and a half there, and then I've been at outpatient since 2021. And then I've worked with various levels of care inside of outpatient. So a mid-tier with a BRS level is what they call it here in Oregon. So it's in between inpatient and outpatient treatment foster care type setup. And then, so I've seen had a lot of different experiences within the mental and behavioral health world, and what I've fallen in love with, even though it's like extremely taxing to go work with kids and then come home and work with kids. It's made me a better parent, and it's made me more understanding with the parents that I work with too, I think. So it's been a good combination. And then I don't know, like I volunteer with our church's youth group currently, figuring out what that looks like moving forward, but they are allowing me to train the youth team on different mental health interventions and stuff. So
You
melding
always
these two
end
worlds.
up being the training guy
Somehow.
everywhere you go. Yeah.
And I'm a trainer at work, and in addition to being in leadership and then having a caseload and all the other random stuff I do, they called me the Hulk for a while because literally for a couple of weeks I had no clients for whatever reason. They just wouldn't show up. And so
green.
No, didn't turn green. I just moved stuff. Like we've been under renovation. And so I was packing up boxes and moving furniture and just hauling stuff. So yes, a glorified mover that's paid well. So
The Hulk.
yes, the Hulk. That was my random nickname they started throwing around there for a while. But I train verbal de-escalation and then different ways to keep yourself safe and side of dysregulated children and adults. So I do a lot of training.
As you're talking, I'm just realizing, so you can go in however far you want to go into, but were you driven towards that field based on your own? Because you had a pretty wild childhood.
Yeah, it's actually pretty interesting because I never wanted to work in mental and behavioral health. I thought it was pretty weird. I thought it was like way out there and scary. I was basically because I was raised that you don't get help. You don't let people into your world. It's dangerous. People are going to use that against you. It was only because of like you and Kyle that I think that I started to realize truly like what my life at home growing up really was, right? So I didn't have a grid. I'd never heard of mental health. I'd never heard of any of that. And I landed in this field completely accidentally. It was not where I thought I would be by any means. I had no intention of going into this career. It just kind of, I say thanks to God and my wife and a couple voices in my world. I should say people's voices, not going crazy.
Hey,
here,
you're
but
in mental health, so if you got the voices going on, it makes sense.
That's right? But I think that in my 20s, it was a lot about grasping and struggling with the reality of my childhood and like trying to figure out what was the truth, just because there was so much gaslighting
Yeah.
and so much like untruth spoken and so much, hey, don't talk to anybody who could have actually helped us, right? And there's so much that's come out now in my adult world, like about my siblings and about our childhood that I didn't know at the time, that makes so much sense now as to like why things were they were way that they were. There's a wide gamut of different forms of abuse that have come forward now that I wasn't even aware of until the last like year or so, year and a half. And so I think I always had a heart for mental health without knowing that's what it was. I just wanted to help hurting people, right? So I was always
Yeah.
that kid as a high schooler who was driving to take pills and razor blades from friends. And after working a 14-hour day, drive 45 minutes to take stuff from people so they could stay safe, and making safety plans with people before I knew what a safety plan was. And like asking really hard questions when no one else was asking them. And just step I wasn't, again, I had no training. I had no one doing it for me. I certainly wasn't in the best place to have been doing that work, but it was always that mindset of, oh, if I don't do it, who's going to? And I
Yeah.
think I hung on to that into adulthood. And then, like I said, in my 20s, being a youth pastor for a bit there with you and some other folks,
You had the middle
when
schoolers though, man.
I
Like
had the
that
middle
was
schoolers, but that was my jam. That was my bread. That was
back
easy.
then. That I wasn't.
Yeah, but they actually talk too. So, but they're not too cool for school. So I still think junior high is my favorite age group to work with. But I think I told you this back in the day. I don't remember how things blended together as a parent. But I remember my first 2 months as the junior high pastor. I sat in my office, which was literally just a closet, right? And I wept for 2 months straight every single day. And had these crazy, surreal experiences where it felt like God showed up in the room and took me back to all the traumatic events in my world and then showed me where he was in the midst of them, which I actually had forgotten about till this conversation just now. I forgot that occurred, but it was
Really?
like a really deep place of healing. And also it was awful. It was, and that really, my time as being a youth pastor just made me confront so much of my own story and wrestle with so many things, seeing things play out in kids' lives and be like, wow, that's not okay. But then I'd look at my own life and be like, oh, well, I was just a piece. That's why my life looked like that was on me. But then when it was somebody else, I wouldn't treat them that way, right? I had a lot of compassion and love for them, but I didn't have that for myself. And I remember
Which, just to pause on that for a second, that's that's such a, not that it's normal or okay, but I feel like that's such a normal pastoral experience.
Yeah.
You give so much all the time that you're just left, who's taking care of me?
Yeah.
It's
interesting because I feel like that's even the case still today to a degree. I still feel that peace.
Yeah.
I think it's a very standard experience.
Yeah. And it's just, some of it is, right, like you said, like your dad, you're working, your husband, and you are creating a lot of safe space for others.
Yeah.
But it is hard when you are, whether highly driven or, just in that world of taking care of others all the time. It's hard to even just remember, let me take a moment and figure out what I need. But I do know that you've done a really good job, like thinking back to when we first met and the stuff we walked through in that first year of ministry school together. You've probably, more than almost anyone that I know, have done a really good job of developing like systems of self-awareness and figuring out, where am I actually at and what do I need to do? And I know, going, whether it's hunting or being in the woods, or like you've protected sacred space for yourself and have gotten better at it. It's one of the things I really look up to you with, is you will protect those boundaries as best you can. I've never actually asked you, but I'm really curious, like, When did you start to become aware of I actually need to have a powerful no at times and create this space and create these outlets that are healthy and that bring me life? Because if I don't do it, at least what it seems like on the outside looking in is if I don't do it, no one's going to do it for me. So I need to go do this.
Yeah, that's such a multifaceted question with so many different responses that just ping through my brain. Because, like, on one hand, it started moving out at 18 and moving across the country. And I had people sending me like angry messages that I abandoned them. And like my siblings were angry and felt abandoned. And I had my brother-in-law who said that I shouldn't be taking money from my parents. I should be making it on my own when I didn't know how to make it on my own yet. I moved from literally
Well,
halfway across the country, and I had a lot of people very angry because part of that story was what I never realized how soon it was, but literally it was only a month from the time the accident occurred until I moved away. But it feels like that period of my life was
mm,
like an eternity. But my best friend's little brother was killed right in front of me. And so, like, that instance put this thing in me where it was like, well, I was still like, for that last month, I was like trying to salvage everyone else around me. I was having phone calls with friends who were in grief and denial. And at one point, I was asked to like basically make sure some people in my world weren't going to take their own life. So I was put on like the role of like suicide watch of watching other people by adults who asked me to do that. And so it's like I was 18. I didn't know truly how to do that.
yeah.
And so when I moved to California, I was in such a desperate place of either I find freedom or like I cease to exist as I know myself. And I didn't really know who I was, but I knew I wasn't feeling suicidal, but I was going to go off a deep end and I was going to start trying to find any other way to feel okay because everything I was trying up to that point wasn't working anymore. And so I
Yeah.
remember I took off the memorial bracelet that they had made for that little boy, and people saw photos of me without that bracelet on in California, and I hate now. And messages from people were so angry that I would take that
Really?
bracelet off. But I remember I was sitting in class in ministry school and like wondering why I couldn't heal. And the truth is, I had PTSD and didn't know it. Because every time I looked at that bracelet, I would flash to that accident and I would
Sure.
relive it. And that would happen dozens of times over the course of a day in ministry school during our 8 or 9 hours in class or whatever it was. I don't remember.
Yeah.
And so, but it would just happen constantly. And I felt like God spoke to me very clearly. I was like, you won't heal unless you take that off. And so when I took that off, I think that was the starting point of me saying no to the expectations of other people and learning that I actually was worth safeguarding. And then I was very codependent when I first got married. We were 19, so or 20. We were 20. So it's not like I really knew a lot at that point anyway. So that's okay. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. There's no other codependent 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds out there
No, right,
at all.
right, not a thing. And so it was actually becoming a pastor where a mentor Jim like stepped in, was like, he would take every Monday and he would go hike. And he told me how that was something that was part of my job description, was to make sure that I was taking care of myself so I could care for other people. And so
Mm,
that was like where that seed was starting to grow in a new way. And then when we had our first boy, when he was first born, we were going through a very tumultuous time in life. My wife's grandfather was sick with cancer and dying. Postpartum is a wild ride for anyone who's had kids. Like, it's
oh yeah.
just, you're trying to figure out being parents, and you're trying to, like, your wife is going through all these crazy hormonal shifts, and it's not her fault in any way, shape, or form. And you're not sleeping.
No, it's
So
your
you're
fault.
going through
It's
it is
your
my
fault.
fault. It 100% was my fault. But I remember we got to this point where the lack of sleep and the change and the grief got to a point where we didn't know how to talk to each other anymore. We didn't know how to like have conversations with each other anymore without fighting. And so we started seeking help and counsel of friends and mentors. And I think that was another thing of, wow, like, I can't offer you anything because I feel like I have nothing left to give. I'm not sleeping. I don't know who you are anymore because all we do is take care of this little screaming human and work. And so And we didn't have a lot of family, and we didn't really have any of neither one of our parents were in town in Reading. So, and we moved farther away from everybody else. Everyone was also kind of more centralized in town. And so we found ourselves feeling very isolated and alone and not knowing how to reach out. And I've never been good at asking for help. And so I think, and my parents have never been healthy individuals. There's a lot of mental health issues there, and
Yeah.
it's rampant throughout my family. So I didn't really have any examples of how to ask for help or like how to take care of yourself. Just like those few examples that I met in other people along the way. And so I got to this point where again in life where I came back to that moment of I either sink or I learn how to take care of myself. It's one of the two. I either will not survive, my marriage won't survive. So it was really make or break moments for me. And certainly like there's those times in life where you just have to do what you have to do, right? You're a parent, you're a spouse, you're a leader, you're a pastor, whatever it might be. Like you hit those moments where it's just kind of sometimes you just have to choose grit and do the thing you don't have in you to do.
Yeah.
That's just the reality of life. And I believe that wholeheartedly. And at the same time, I realized it was actually best for my wife and my children and my job if I said, hey, I actually have to leave the house by myself for 2 hours. I'll be back in 2 hours. And that was a place of massive amounts of tension for my wife and I at the time.
I can
Because
imagine.
we had 3 kids in 6 years, and not even 6 years, 5 years, right? Like 3 kids in 5
Overachievers,
years.
man.
Not all of us planned, but what can I say? Yes. In that, though, I've always been someone who's gone to nature. Nature's always been my safe place. In the midst of the craziness of my childhood, nature was my safe place. I'd get on a quad and I would just go ride old trails, and I would hike through the woods, and I would hunt. And all of those things were places where I felt alive and safe. And for a long time, I didn't really have that. I didn't know how to find that. We moved to Oregon in 2020, and I left all of my friends behind. I moved to a place where I knew people, but no one really truly knew me.
Yeah.
But I moved here because I knew my wife and my son needed it. And I knew it was best for them. And so I knew that it was best for them, that it was going to be best for me in the long run. It was because they're my heart, right? So,
Yeah.
but then getting out here, I once again found myself in the chaos. COVID happened, and all of our family here worked in the hospital, and my wife worked in the hospital. And so that was a wild time where we were just isolated. And I think most of us can say that was just a wild time. One way or the other, no matter where you fall, it was a wild time.
Yeah.
And so
Unless you were in like Wyoming, and then it was probably just business as usual.
probably just there's no one around. So yeah, whatever. You're an antelope playing or whatever it is. So, but I started going out to the woods more where I could. And we're like an hour away from where I hunt. And I've had a lot of mountaintop experiences with the Lord. And for a while, it was actually the only place I could hear God's voice anymore. I stopped hearing God's voice for a number of years that I could distinguish. And I was just locked in a world of trauma. It's just every day for a while, I just stopped suicide attempts. And every day was seeing people at some of their lowest. And we didn't have the support we needed in that job. And so I could work 18 hours and have not been allowed to get water or use the bathroom. It happened a couple times where there was no time for food, water, bathroom, nothing. And that's really bad for your body just in general. But then what it does to your mental state is it starts to break you down. And so I would hit this point and my wife would be like, hey, you got to go to the mountains. She started to see, but like I had to, if I was going to show up in our world in a positive way at all, I had to go to the mountains and I had to find that space alone. Because I would just go out there and it feel like the trauma and the reality of it all would just seep out of me almost to a degree. It was always still there, but I can breathe and I could hear God's voice for a little bit. And it wasn't always clear. Sometimes it was really messy. I'd go out there and I'd pace around and I'd hike and sweat and scream and holler and sing and cry and come back and
Freaked
feel
out a
like
few
okay.
hikers along the way.
Well, there's nobody else out there. It's not like actually hiking trails. It's just the middle of nowhere. It's just like a
Nice.
local hunting spot. And so I've only ever encountered people out there during deer season. And even then, most of those people drive the roads. They don't hike in. So most of the time I'm by myself out there. So it's become, I just realized that I either have it or I die, whether that like more of a figurative mental emotional place than a physical place. But when your spiritual and mental health begin to degrade, then your body starts to degrade, right? Like
Yeah.
you start to feel like crap. And so, yeah, I just learned that it's a necessity and I can't do the work I do. I can't be a good husband. I can't be a good pastor. I still believe that I am a pastor, even though I'm not like in the church.
Sure.
I still carry that heart and that calling to a degree. So yeah, I think it's become a necessity. I've learned that. And so even though sometimes it actually sucks because sometimes what I want is to connect with my wife and my kids, but it hits a point where I can't anymore unless I take care of myself.
Yeah.
Because I have nothing to give and they can't get anything from me.
Yeah.
So
True.
yeah. And I know it's long-winded. I think there's a lot of pieces like in between that led me to those places of learning those things. It was a sacred journey for sure. It was a messy journey. I think I'm still on that journey. I don't get out every week to like take care of myself. I've
Yeah.
just learned how to do it in different ways, right? Currently, one of the ways I'm doing it is I am off of social media right now for the most part. Just started that this week where it's taking up too much of my brain space, too much of because it's easy when you get busy and you get full in your schedule and in your life to be like, I can't read a book. My kids are going to interrupt me 12 times in 5 minutes. I tried to read a Bible verse the other day, 20 verses in this little chapter. It took me 5 minutes to read. I'm not that slow of a reader. I couldn't get more than a sentence at a time without dad.
Oh yeah.
And so it's easy to just turn to your phone to numb it out and be like, oh, I'll just veg out and watch some stupid reel about a Yeti or something. And it means nothing. It's not real. It literally adds nothing to my life.
Oh, what do you mean it's not real? What do you mean it's not real?
The AI generated videos.
All right. Those are pretty funny.
Not denying
Those
they
are
are
pretty funny.
hilarious. They do make me laugh more so than any other AI item. But I am trying to now invest my time into just being more present as well and not letting everything else in the world drain my energy. My wife's been a massive role model in that arena. So trying to follow suit.
It's just wives, man. Moms. They're built different. I tell Erin all the time. She's tougher than me. I can't compete.
Yeah. Well, she started this thing. She heard it from this person. She started listening to podcasts. She listens to Justin and Abby's podcast, The Connected Life, a ton. And then there's this, I forget, Mel Robinson or something, some mental health person who has mental health people on. But their big mantra is let them. So like whatever people are going to do, whatever, let them. I'm not going to let it steal my energy. And I've watched her put it to practice the last several months, and I don't understand it fully because I'm like, that's an injustice.
Yeah, no.
And I get riled, and she's just kind of, go ahead and do it. That's fine. I know what I'm going to do. You won't like it. And you don't need, basically, like, she just doesn't let things steal her joy anymore. And it's like wild to watch. And then she's cut back on her, like, she's handling her own screen time so differently. And she's just so peaceful and joyous and stuff. And it's not that she wasn't those things like before, but it's different levels now. And she's more gracious and patient with everyone around her. And seeing that too, it's okay. Well, because she shared a stat with me from one of those podcasts the other day that like the studies are saying that by the end of your life, you'll spend 20 years on your phone.
What?
Yeah, based upon the amount of consumption that people are using, that will be like the average. You'll have spent 20 years of your life looking at your phone screen. And that is like disgusting. And
crazy.
I haven't looked into that, right? That's just the number that she shared. And so I don't want that. And I don't want that for my kid. Well, even my son the other day, I was like, buddy, if you ever, whatever comes up, I want you to feel like you can ask me questions. And he's like, well, you don't always answer. I was like, oh,
Ouch.
that one hurts. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's little moments like that where it's okay, I have too many other things vying for my attention that really aren't important. They're just
Yeah.
like a band-aid coping tool a lot of the time. So I think I'm still on a journey of learning self-care and how to do it well. Now I'm not as afraid to tell my wife, hey, I need to go take care of myself. That used to make me feel very uncomfortable. And now I just know that's actually me saying I love you in another way. So
Yeah. Yeah. I, it's funny, man, because so about a month and a half ago, I left my full-time job to do ministry and this sort
yeah,
of stuff and all that. And I had one of the crazy moments I had about a year ago, actually, that set me on to this path of I needed to start making some changes, like similar field to what you were doing. I was working with mostly young adults, but with teenagers and stuff. And
yeah,
when you're in that field, at least for me, the organization I was working for, there was no off switch.
no.
It was phone calls all the time. And I was a
Mhm.
director for the last year or so of it. So there's phone calls all the time, text all the time, just constantly. There's no weekends. Your life is
Mhm.
consumed by the job. And I
Yeah.
had a moment with my oldest last, I think it was right around this time last year, like July, August last year, where he was trying to talk to me in the kitchen. And I couldn't tell you what he was trying to ask me. He took my phone and he just kind of pulled it down. And he said, "Oh, it's nice to see your face."
Ooh,
And I was like, "What?" He was like, "You're always on the phone." He's not even 7 yet at this point. And I'm like, "Oh
yeah,
man, that that sucked. That sucked."
yeah,
I'm still not great at it because I do so much on my phone, but uh
sure.
yeah, I totally get that. 20 years though is that's nuts.
It's a scary number when
Yeah.
you like look at like how long we have on this planet on average, since none of us truly know, but it's a scary number. And if you look at it, and it's like that's not a I think in some ways the generations that came before still had other things that they used for distraction, right? I feel like in some ways phones have come to be the quick band-aid instead of I still obviously alcoholism and some of those things are still like rampant issues, but I feel like I see parents justify like their addictions to their phones. Like previous generations said, oh, my 5 glasses of whiskey at night help me relax. It's the same thing. I just need to be on my phone. It helps me relax. It's I just need to
Yeah.
veg out and or I've earned it. I deserve it. It's all the same thing. It's just a different thing that we say is okay now. But it's not any different. And so we are in some ways just repeating the mistakes of the generations before us while trying so hard to do better. And there's no way to get it perfect, but
Listen, we have our phones, right? Our
Mhm.
grandparents had their whiskey.
Yeah.
Their grandparents had the Crusades. Everyone's got their thing.
Yeah, everyone's got their thing. I did hear a mental health professional. This was probably 30 to 40 years ago. I don't know, it was really old tape. And he said, what is the difference between an antidepressant and a beer? You're medicating one way or another. It made me think. I'm not endorsing that one way or the other. I'm just saying it made me think.
You're not
We
taking an
have
official
been,
stance on antidepressants here right now?
no, not taking an official stance, but I think like the human experience is so complicated. To
Yeah.
take an official stance would be pretty hard. But I thought it was interesting just from the viewpoint of how we've always tried to figure out how to feel better.
Yeah.
The methods have just shifted in some instances, not in all, but
Yeah. Well, I think we all, right? We all want we all want the basic things. We all want to belong. We all want
Yep.
purpose. We all want to know we're connected to something. And it makes me think of something you brought up a little while ago of moving from really you up until 5 years ago. I would say you grew up in Minnesota, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. It's you grew up in Minnesota, but the only home you ever really knew was Reading, as far as
Yeah.
family, connection, community, all that sort of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Coming into myself, like that's the only place
Yeah.
I actually had ever knew who I was, even though it wasn't like super solidified and confident in it. That was the only place, that was the place I first felt safe.
Yeah. Yeah. And you were there for almost 10 years.
Yeah. Very long time.
Yeah. So it's how have you adjusted going from having a place of safety and community and connection, all basic needs that we have as humans to, I know you said you realized it was your son and your wife needed it, but how have you over the last 5 years made or not made that connection piece? Has that been something that's been hard for you to figure out being 5 years in now? How are you finding purpose, all that sort of stuff?
So I definitely still on that journey for sure. I think the first thing was a lot of times, even when you make a choice for the right reasons, right? I prioritize my family and their well-being. There's still moments where it's like, ah, what about me? I don't have what I want or what I need. Just like looking at the belonging and the safety and the feeling like you're a part of something piece. Because I really got up here and was wandering. I was a stay-at-home dad for several months because everyone in our family was working in the hospitals, and so I was home with our son because I was the only one not being exposed to this disease process we knew nothing about at the time. And so I was there to like take care of him, which was like a cool thing in some ways, but it was also a
Yeah.
time of wandering inside myself. And I was just forced to sit in silence other than talking to him every day. And so it was a hard time, but I think the first posture I had to take was I was never going to allow what I didn't have to become a place of bitterness or resentment towards my wife. And I always
Mm,
promised her I wouldn't allow it to be because this is where she's from. This is where her family's from. This is where she grew up. And so there's a lot. And that's obviously multifaceted for her in her own experience.
sure.
It was not necessarily just like peaches and cream. But I that was like the first thing that I knew that I couldn't compromise on was I wasn't allowed to be like, I don't have this because you made me move. No, that's I kept coming back to and no, actually I chose this and I wouldn't unchoose this because I chose my family's well-being over
Yeah.
what may have felt more comfortable for me. Finding a place of like safety and belonging has been really challenging going into this field. There's not and maybe you've had a different experience, but going into this field in Southern Oregon, there wasn't a high value or respect for pastors or Christians in this field. And so I've had a lot of interesting things said to me because of my faith and the fact I was a pastor before, both by clients and coworkers. And so it was challenging because I didn't have any real friends up here. And then on top of that, the place that I worked oftentimes was hostile in ways towards me because of my integrity and my honesty. People got mad because I would actually write things how it happened, or I would rat people out for doing unethical things, or people didn't really appreciate that always. And so I didn't really have a belonging there. I worked Sundays for my that year and a half. I was almost always working Sundays. So it's very rare to go to a church. And then we've been on staff at a church. Going to find a new church can be really challenging because you have all these, oh, it's not like this, it's not like that. Where do I fit? I'm not a pastor. I was a pastor.
Yeah.
But
Or
I
do
think
I
it should be
let
done
people
this
know
way.
that? Do I let people know I
Yeah.
was a pastor? So, because I don't really want to,
Yeah.
do I want to get involved in that way?
Exactly. Do I want to be involved? I feel the need to be involved. I'm a hole filler and a fixer at times, and so I see
That
things and I
sounded a
want to.
little, that sounded a little, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I figured you might say that. No comment. Yes, we'll move on. I like to fix things. And so because of that, it makes it's easy to have my purpose be like, oh, I'm helping people, or I'm fixing this, or I'm fixing that.
Yeah.
But it's been a very lonely 5 years. I'm still lonely oftentimes. I will say what's come out of it is Shayla's my best friend, hands down, no questions asked. I just like being around her. And so we've grown so much closer than what I probably ever could have dreamt of. We've gone through a lot in our relationship and navigated a lot of different pieces with family, and we've learned to fight better than we've ever fought before, and like we are more honest and vulnerable with each other than we've ever been, and aren't afraid of each other's messes or like trying to like make each other happy. We oftentimes start conversations with, I can't fix this for you, and how can I still be there with you? Like, it's some mindset shifts for us, and so we've grown to be a lot closer, which I am so beyond thankful for. It's been a lot of rewriting family for me because there's a lot of dysfunction in her family, obviously a lot of dysfunction in my family. I've lost the majority of relationship with almost everyone from my side of the family. I have little to no contact with anyone at this point for lots of various reasons. Some my boundaries, some their boundaries, so on and so forth. It's been like, all right, so been a redefining a family, a learning how to receive love in new ways, because it's meant that I've had to learn how to receive love from people I may not necessarily want to, if that makes sense. But they're trying to show up in my world and show they care. And like my instinct is to push them away. And yet they're here and they're trying. And it's like trying to find ways to accept love from them, to open my heart to it, not just have walls. Yeah, it's trying to find like men to do life with up here is really strange and hard. And I didn't realize the bubble we lived in, because it's like there was like 5 of us who met for weekly coffee for a while there, right?
Yeah.
And like we
Every
just shared
Thursday
life
morning.
with each other every Thursday morning. And
I'm really fighting to not make a joke about not being able to find a man in Southern Oregon, but I'm going to refrain.
hey, it's a mixing pot. So yeah, no comment. Portland. Anyway, not anywhere near Portland. Yes.
So,
Or was I?
yeah, you were telling us about just the whole transition.
Trying to find men.
Trying to find men.
Trying to find male community here is weird. Community at all here is really strange. So Bend, Oregon has a really strange culture where it's like everyone likes to be fake okay. And it's like different than other places I've been where it's like Shayla has known,
or
no, like they don't want to burden anyone with what's going on in their life. So they just don't tell anyone about it. Like Shayla's known people around here for 30 years, some of them, right? And they don't just, it's not part of the culture to just share, even after knowing someone for 30 years, what's going on in their world.
Wow. Very different.
And so I don't know. I know the names of 3 of my neighbors. I don't know. And I've lived in this neighborhood for 5 years. People want everyone to stay out of their business. You don't say hi. You don't really even look at each other. It's weird. It's a weird cultural thing. But some of it, I think I look back on how was the West founded. The people who came to the West Coast, came to Oregon, were looking to be left alone. And it seems like that culture has continued. You leave me alone.
If this is my prospect, get out of here.
Yes, exactly. It's still a similar vibe. It's very weird. Yeah, I don't have statistics or scientific fact to back that, but it's a theory of mine because everywhere you go, people just don't share. And so even like within the church, it's, oh, how are you? Oh, I'm doing good. Are you really? I have a hard time believing everyone's doing good. I actually had someone recently at church. They asked me, hey, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I've been better. And it's been a little rough, but it's good now, right? Sure. Like they weren't comfortable with me not being okay. And so it's like,
You not being okay is making me
okay,
realize I'm not okay.
exactly. Or people just cover up. They cover up that parenting is hard with, oh, I like this version of my kid that where they're not talking. And they're like, oh, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't have. You can be tired as a parent. You can have moments where you don't want your kid to talk. You can struggle with always being needed all the time, but people here like gloss things over and stuff. So it's an interesting journey. I've created a band of misfits. Like I have a very interesting friend group. One doesn't say anything serious unless it's in a joke. So you never actually know
So if they say something
if
funny, that means, hey, I'm not okay.
it's very hard to know what is funny, what is serious, and what is has depth. Like
That's
I
interesting.
think the deepest thing I've heard is I've wanted this for a long time, referencing a job, and you're a very good friend, LOL. Like those are like two of the deepest sentences I've heard from that specific friend. And then I don't even know where they stand on until I've been friends with them for what, 3 or 4 years. I didn't know where they stood on any politics. I still don't know where they stand on faith because even though the talker in the group, I'll just jabber people's ears off, right? Because I can choose to continue to try to still be vulnerable and verbal processor over here can't shut up completely. Though I will say that friend has taught me how to be okay with silence in ways that
Mm.
I didn't know how to be before. That has definitely grown me. But yeah, like and then I have a friend who's like really outspoken on a bunch of topics that I definitely don't align with. And then I have another friend who wants to hear everything I have to share, will share some things, but then won't actually like open their heart fully because, well, for whatever reason, they just guarded. So it's and I can go months without seeing any of them. If I see, if I get together with friends once every 3 to 4 months, I'm killing it. And
That's hard,
so,
man.
yeah, it's very lonely. And yet I found solace in like going to the range and just bettering myself, practicing my firearm skills. And that's become a pretty big like outlet for me. And even that's not super
Yeah.
common these days. But
So when
um,
lonely, go shoot some targets.
yeah, pretty much.
Nice.
And there's typically old dudes at the range who are lonely too, and they'll talk to you.
Oh my gosh, man. I was thinking too, like you did, because I know that whole finding healthy men, finding male camaraderie community, that's something that you going all the way back to 2011, that was always something that was really important for you. And I know
Yeah,
you walked through some hard stuff too, even just moving to Oregon with losing your father-in-law.
yeah,
And because you guys spent a lot of time together.
yeah,
So I could imagine not only being lonely, but also being like, what the heck, God?
yeah, yeah,
What is going on?
yeah. I had
Like,
that moment on a mountain actually, because so he got sick with COVID and he died. It was actually Shayla's stepdad, but he took me to the place that I hunt. We started going out there. We went out there for 10 years together. It was not long after Shane and I were together that he started taking me out there to try to like build relationship. And so he's the only man.
which is the exact way to build a relationship with you is
It, it is
go hunt.
exactly how. Yeah, he took me to all. Let's go. Even if we weren't able to, even if it wasn't hunting season, he's like, let's just go out with guns and camo and just find deer and look at them. And so that's what we would do. We would just drive around and look for wildlife and
That's hilarious.
just to look at them. And because we love being in the mountains in camouflage with guns, and that's just what we did together. And I remember we hit a point where we're very on opposite. We're very just we found ourselves on pretty different ends of some pretty intense topics, politically, socially. It was in the middle of like COVID and everything. And I remember one day he called me and I didn't answer, but he left me a voicemail. He's like, hey, I'm just calling because I wanted to say I love you and I miss you. and whatever's going on, we should figure this out. And I've never had a man that isn't a father figure role. I've had that from like you and Kyle and some of our other good friends, right, who've done that.
Yeah.
But I've never had a father figure older man do that where they're like, oh, things are feel broken and I don't like that and I miss you. Let's figure
Yeah.
it out. And we went to the mountains and we talked and hashed it out. And it turned out he had all this pain of his own because sometimes we forget older men have pain too. And so like what I loved about it was he was like, hey, this is where I think I was wrong. Tell me what your perspective is. And then he would hear me out. And he's, I'm sorry that I affected you that way. I'm sorry that I impacted you that way. How can we like work this out? And that was not like, he was like old school, like raised at a really abusive home, gone through all kinds of stuff, right? And like he the thing I loved about him was he was a messy dude. He told me all these crazy stories from when he was younger, and some of the stuff, as he said, that was bad. He just did some bad things, but he always owned them. He never ran from them. And so when we moved up here, he really was for a long time my only community. Like that was it with him. And so then when we had distance between us, that was really hard. And then when we repaired things, when he got sick, I realized, wow, he became my dad. I didn't realize that like he had stepped into that role because he actually treated me like a dad's supposed to treat their son. Like, hey, how can I connect with you? I'm going to do the thing that matters to you to connect with you. I'm going to seek out your heart. I'm going to, when there's a gap, I'm going to build the bridge. Like that was just him. He always found a way. And he'd call me up just to say, hey, I was just thinking about what you're doing in life and what you're doing in your career. I just want to know how proud of you I am. And I'm seeing you make these moves and that moves, and you're one of the smartest guys I know. And I'd never been told I was smart like that before. And he just, every time I saw him, he told me how proud of me he was. And so when he died, I remember actually went up on a mountain. It was my birthday. I went and climbed a mountain by myself with a rifle, of course, and I climbed up to one of these places. He actually had told me, you'll never see deer over there. And I sat there and a buck came out and just was eating 400 yards away. And it just sat there the whole time I was there. But I was like bawling my eyes out and yelling. And I felt like in that moment, I hadn't heard God's voice in a long time. But I was just like angry. And God, why? He's been my community, like you're saying. Like I've never experienced what it means to have a dad like this before. And I didn't even realize it till he was on his deathbed, really. He was already in the hospital getting ready to be put on a ventilator, and he never came off. I never spoke to him again. And it's, why did I wait my whole life to have that and then not know I had it until it was like really too late in a lot of ways. And I had a son, my second oldest was born 6 weeks after that. And so like he missed the birth of my second son, which he was so stoked for. He was so excited to have so many little boys running around. And it healed his heart. He talked about the redemption that it was for his soul to get to be a part of raising a little boy, because he just had so much stolen from him in life. And so he just adored my oldest, and he was so excited for the second. And so I was up on the mountain and I felt like God called me out, and he was like, it's time for you to stop looking for a father, and it's time for you to be a father. And I remember for me, that struck my soul because I was like in this place of grief.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel like an invalidating thing necessarily. And at the same time, it did. Because I was like, I'm up here like grieving, not having a dad. And you're telling me it's time to man up and be a dad. But the thing that it changed for me was how I viewed being a father. And it completely shifted my brain. And from that point on, even Shayla said I've fathered so different than I did before that moment. That the way that I show up in my boy's life just changed drastically, because I saw myself as like meeting that need in them rather than constantly looking for someone else to meet that need in me. And so I think that was the moment that I became okay with being alone, in the sense of not looking for other people, even though I still wanted it, right? But like finding that a place of okayness, if no one else is pouring into me if no one else is my community, like I still get to show up for them. I still have to show up for them. And it's
Yeah.
not fair to like slack there because of that. And I think that comfortability with being, it's comfortability and it's not, because I'm still not comfortable with it completely. I still
Yeah.
long for that belonging and such, but it's it's just different than what it was before. It doesn't like make me not functional. I don't know if that's even accurate, the most accurate way to portray it. But in the last 2 weeks, I've had really intense conversations about belonging and like with leadership at our church and some concerns I had there and our small group leader and some really intense heart to hearts. I'm doing the same thing at work, like not just on behalf of myself, but on behalf of a lot of other staff. And so I think something's happening and something's changing, but I wouldn't say I've experienced like the full fruit of that yet.
Man, it's so interesting to me how not full circle and like that you're done, because obviously you're not,
Yeah.
but how full circle your story is up to this point of going from this really super broken kind of little boy to who needed validation from everyone, needed to be. I remember you literally freaking out about being alone like all the time.
Yeah.
To now, like what I'm hearing you say really is that you're content. It's like,
More so than ever.
yeah,
It's not 100%, but yes.
yeah. And it's this like full circle moment of look at two things. Look at what the Lord's done and look at the hard work that you've put in. Like you've worked so hard to get to this spot and went after this.
Yeah.
And look what you're walking in. It's
Yeah.
Man, I celebrate you in that, because that's so there's not a whole lot of guys out there that would do the work.
Yeah.
That's pretty rare.
Yeah.
So I'm super proud of you. That's You've done good.
I appreciate
That
it.
Now I gotta ask you a weird question, because you've spent so much time in the woods. You seen any weird stuff?
Not like what, not really. I think the weirdest would be I spend a lot of time out there in the woods growing up, and then at this point it's still like my favorite place to go. But
Because you
going
grew up
out
in like
there,
northern Minnesota, right? Weren't you
yeah,
way up there?
yeah, the Arrowhead region, Boundary Waters, 150 people spread out across 15 miles of back road. So it's just national forest really. And so I spent a lot of time out there, but I think I never really had a lot of weird experiences out there. You know, you feel you're being watched or you hear screams or whatever, and you look around and you'll
Oh yeah.
find
Just hear
creatures like,
screams.
yeah, big cat screams. They're creepy. And like foxes scream, and
Yeah. I've
there's
heard
lots
the
of
the cougar screams
the
are
cougars scream. But what freaked me out recently was I heard what cougars sound like when they talk to each other. Because they don't just go around screaming all the time. They actually have their own like dialogue. And so it literally was this freaked me out once I heard it. Because I was like, well, dang, I have been listening to that for a very long time where I hunt, not even aware of it. But it sounds like birds chirping, but it's got a little bit of a unique twist to it. And they sound like the chirping bird when they're just talking. It's
interesting.
definitely I've been around a lot more cougars than I thought, based upon recently hearing those sounds and a video of cougars talking to each other. And I was like, well, dang it, that's creepy. That means, and I've had a cougar tag. I'd love to shoot one and eat one. They're supposed to be really
Really?
good.
Really?
Yeah. The
I
mountain
can't
men
imagine
swear
cat
by it.
tasting very good. Yeah, aren't mountain men like picking berries out of bear turds and stuff?
Yeah, probably. To each their own. There's this story I heard on the news when I was a kid. This dude got attacked by a cougar and he killed it with a chainsaw. And after that, he asked if he could keep the meat because it was like his favorite from growing up. And we can't remember if they let him keep it or not. But I remember hearing that and being like, that's so weird. And then I grew up reading so many Willie Lamore books, and they always ate cougar and stuff. And I thought it was amazing. So
That's crazy.
it's
I didn't
one
realize
of
that was
those
like a
things now.
delicacy.
Yeah. Well, I've now like I always heard the same thing about like bear and stuff, and people a lot of people try to tell me bear's gross and greasy, and it's not. It's at least not the bear we got. My brother shot. We cooked that thing up. That thing was so sweet. Tasted like blackberries. That's all it ate. So it
Yeah.
tasted like what it did.
You probably were eating blackberries.
Yeah, that too. But, so I would love to try to eat a cougar, but and I've gotten them on my cams out there, but I haven't had any weird experiences as far as Bigfoot or anything
Not
like
yet.
that.
Not
Not
yet.
yet. I would shoot a Bigfoot if I saw one.
You can't say that, man. You can't
I would.
because they're protected by the government. And
No,
like
not in the United
you
States.
can't
That's Canada.
they're all in the underground bases and stuff, bro. You
Yeah, well,
can't say you
yeah,
want to
you
shoot
know,
one. It's a
they're
government
they're
asset.
well, just okay. I'd have to find
I love
one.
how we like 90% of this has been all emotional awareness, mental health, and now
Uh-huh.
we're shooting Bigfoot.
Yeah, well, I would abide by all hunting laws,
You gonna get
but
a tag?
there's no
Bigfoot tag?
tag. The Bigfoot is recognized as a part of society here.
Just get a
Everyone likes
JC
Bigfoot.
Penney's tag and write
Mm,
write some
Bigfoot.
numbers and Bigfoot.
Yeah, there we go. Perfect. I have seen some. See, like I've never had anything I couldn't explain out in the woods.
What was the weirdest thing you had to really try to explain? Like you had to do some mental gymnastics, but you got there.
I don't think I've had any of those moments, honestly.
I'm gonna pray for you to have those moments because I live in Long Island. We don't have woods. We got 6 million people. That's the weirdest part.
I have been, yeah, I don't know. I found really big tracks. I walked through the woods and had trees coming down like nearby because they're just like old and dead. And
Right.
yeah, no,
Yes.
I'm talking like big trees, dude. I'm not talking like Bigfoot through a limb. Like these things are like trees. That's creepy. That's just a creepy sound. Where when you're walking through the woods and you just hear that loud crack and
Yeah.
you hear that tree coming and you don't know where it is terrifying. I've had that happen a few instances, and I don't know where it is, and I can't see it. And it's pretty thick up there. I've come face to face with bears a couple times out hunting, like 40 feet, just come around a bend and there's a bear. He
Mostly
looked at
black
me.
bear up there, or is it?
It's all black bear. Yeah, there's no
Yeah.
grizzlies here anymore. Yeah, it's just black bears and cougars. And I've been out there when I've heard other people like up on tops of ridges talking, but I have no idea how they got up to where they are. That one time we actually thought we came into an illegal grow, and
That's
dude, we were
marijuana for
freaked.
anyone who doesn't know what we're
Yes,
talking about.
yes. And there's a lot of illegal grows in Southern Oregon guarded by armed folks. And it's not uncommon to stumble upon them out in the forest. And so we were out there and we thought we heard the voices up on the ridge above us. There was three of us. And every single one of us was like, dude, we're about to get lit up because we had had the smell of marijuana in the trees. Like you can just smell it. There's voices up on top of the ridge above us. And then down below us, you could see all this stuff, but we couldn't make out what it was.
Mm.
And we had to go by it in order to get back where we were just because of the route we took. And so we were literally like stalking our way, trying to keep trees between us and like the voices uphill from us. And I still have no idea. Like we're in the middle of nowhere. Like it was weird. It turned out what we saw was just a reflection off of some plants and some natural spring water that we thought was like tarps and
Is that what they
camp.
told you to say? Is that you can be honest? Blink
Yeah,
once
yeah.
for yes.
It was the UFOs. They found us.
Hilarious. Dude, wild turn on this conversation, but I love it. So just like bringing us back in and closing this out, looking at,
Yeah.
again, your whole story, and really it's very surface level what we've gone into, but looking at your story going from all the trauma, because I mean, you had other traumatic stuff, PTSD stuff outside of just seeing your
Sure.
friend's little brother pass and everything you've
Yeah.
walked through and how tenacious you've been with wholeness and healing and making sure that
Mhm.
your story didn't end with your childhood trauma, right?
Yeah.
What's something you would say to anyone out there who maybe they've gone through traumatic stuff as kids too, or
Sure.
they struggled with finding community or had really crappy parents or all that sort of stuff? What is something you would say to them, whether it's they haven't gotten their butts in gear yet or they're just struggling?
Mhm.
Looking at your experience, what would you say to them?
Be kind to yourself. Don't show hate to yourself for what you did to survive crappy situations. I think that's one of the biggest things that at least I have taken from my journey is until I started loving myself and accepting the fact that I did what I did to survive, and not because I was evil or demented or something. Once I was able to accept that, it actually changed how I saw my healing process because I was no longer trying to hide part of myself or hide from part of myself or disown part of myself. When in reality, little Josh, as I like to refer to my younger self, was just doing what he had to do to get by. And
Mm,
so being kind to myself for the choices I made and the mistakes I made and the dysfunction I carried and accepting it as not like oh, that was a good thing for me to do, but like it was an understandable thing for me to do. And I think that once you can show yourself that kind of kindness, it radically changes then how you let other people into that world. And you know what?
yeah.
It's really hard to heal if you hate the person you're trying to heal.
Yeah, that's good.
So until I was willing to own my own story and stop hating my younger version of me, I was stuck. So once I was able to figure that piece out, that drastically changed
Mm,
how quickly I healed and how quickly I grew.
yeah, that's good, man. Well, hey, would you, thanks so much for joining me and
Yeah.
sharing a bit of your
Thanks,
story.
man.
We'll find space to get you back, and hopefully at
Yeah.
that point you've had some crazy Bigfoot encounters or something.
We'll
Uh,
see.
but no, just really love you, really proud of you, really thankful
Love you too, man.
for your story and all you've walked through and your willingness to share that. And yeah, just super thankful for you. Would you pray us out?
Sure. And before I do that, just a thank you to you because without you and Aaron and the moments you walked me through in the early days, life would have, I think, would look differently now. You've been I would agree. You are a brother in my world, and I'm glad that we've stayed in touch, even across, literally, as almost as far as
I think
apart
we're
as we
almost a
could
straight
possibly
line.
get.
I think we're
Is
almost
it
a straight line across.
almost?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's pretty wild, but yeah, I can praise that. I really appreciate you, so I love you a lot. Lord, we just thank you for this time. Ask that it would be helpful to someone. And it's just helpful to connect with a brother and a friend. And I just ask that you would just meet people wherever they're at in their journey of healing and wholeness and just messy human experience. I know that you understand this messy human experience, Lord, and I just ask that you would be present with everyone in their messy human experience. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, bro. Love you.
Yeah, thank you. Love you too.